I'm Dr. Gena Ross, and I'm running for U.S. Senate for the state of Missouri. I'm good trouble because people are my first priority. I will stay true to all people as I stay true to myself. I'm unbossed, unbought, and unbiased, paving the way for change. Please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or go to my website, rossforussenate.com. We're better together, building a better tomorrow beginning today. Business as usual is no longer acceptable, and feel free to make a contribution. No dollar amount is too small. Thank you very much.
Just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a liberty in Christ. I am.
Well, welcome. And we are hanging out today. Welcome to the Ross for U.S. Senate 2022 campaign. And we're presenting a candid conversation with Dr. Gena Ross and Mr. Wayne Bugg. Now, we're going to be talking about making drastic decisions to save our children's lives. And I'm just going to let Brother Bugg just get in there and just share what he's been working on and how he contributes to his community. Welcome, Wayne.
Good evening,
Dr.
ladies.
Gena.
Good evening.
Well, ladies, it's a privilege and honor to be with y'all tonight. I'm here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I work at this thrift store, and this elder of the community has been coming in for years and been bragging about her daughter, Dr. Ross, and all the wonderful things that she's doing to positively impact our community, our nation even.
All right now.
And so she's probably your biggest cheerleader. And so I actually had the opportunity to meet Dr. Ross a couple of weeks ago as she was in town, and we had an opportunity to kind of swap stories. Got to hear a little bit about her move to Missouri and what initiated that, and I was able to also share how I ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so I think one of the things that both of those stories had shared in common was drastic decisions being made in order to save the lives of youth. And in particular, I told her about myself growing up in the inner city of Chicago, Illinois. It's a south suburb, Harvey, for those that are not familiar with that area. If you ever seen the movies, The Blues Brothers, there's a scene in the movie when the car drives through a mall, and that mall is in Harvey, Illinois. And so once the movie had done the shoot there, they never came back and fixed the mall, Dixie Square. And that's how our city kind of laid in ruins. And so I lived in this pretty poverty-stricken area that was riddled with crime. And as a youth growing up in that atmosphere, eventually, I began to succumb to some of the pressures that come along with some of those lifestyles. As a kid, as adolescence, I probably had dreams of being, a doctor or a lawyer. But by the age of 12 or 13, I knew that wasn't going to be a reality. I was able to look at those that were around me and see that those aspirations did not work out for them. And so to a degree, it caused me to succumb or to give in and accept my reality that around me, people were poor, people were in gangs, people used drugs, sold drugs. And that was the best case scenario for me, that either I was going to either sell drugs or use drugs. That was going to be my mainstay in life. And so I remember in middle school, as school ended, one of my classmates going outside, standing on the corner, and there's another group of guys who came up to him and asked him what gang he was in. He gave the wrong answer, and they beat him with a baseball bat.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up in this chaotic environment, I began to try to figure out ways that I would be able to survive in that. And ultimately, it resulted in me joining the gang at some point in order to survive. So not in order to, be part of something cool or trendy, but it
Mm-hmm.
was to survive. I can either fight all the gangs, or I can pick one and have an alliance with one. And so I did that. And eventually in high school, I ended up getting kicked out of school my sophomore year. And they told me that I couldn't go to any public schools in Harvey. Uh, and going to school was not, you know, inspiring to me. It felt like going to jail every day and then being released at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember opening up my locker one day, and we had locker partners assigned to us, and a gun fell out. My classmate had brought a gun to school to protect himself. And so, in such a chaotic environment, it just fostered hopelessness. And there was something drastic was necessary for me in order for me to be saved. I was the oldest of 4 kids. My parents, they loved me, and they had their struggles as well, growing up in this environment. And I think that they tried alcohol and drugs to be able to medicate themselves and dealing with all this hopelessness. Bringing a kid up in this environment is something that I would not, put on my worst enemies. And so as a parent, being in a place of hopelessness, I can see that on my parents' face. And so once I got kicked out of school, I found a group of people to hang out with. There were other dropouts, and the amount of criminal activity I participated in began to grow. And then particularly one day I was with a friend, and we went to go buy some weed from someone. And when that person who was selling the weed opened the door, my friend shot him. Yeah, and it was a shock to me. And eventually the guy turned himself in, and I was able to get out of that situation and become an accomplice to something the man lived. And so that was helpful too. And there was something drastic that I believe needed to be done. And so I was able to reach out to an aunt of mine and ask her if I can come move with her in the neighboring state of Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a difficult decision for my parents.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. Yeah.
Go ahead at any point. I want to. Yeah.
You don't want your number one, being the oldest, being the son, and it's something about being a parent that you want to raise your own kids.
Yeah.
There's some there's something about that. It's like, okay, well, someone else raising them. I never wanted it to come alongside on the back end of me being a parent and saying, okay, well, you didn't raise me, so and so raised me or whatever. But I understand too the despair that your parents had being in that type of community. Well, this is not an unusual community. This is just the community that we find ourselves in, African American, and of course the community, the ghetto, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It is what it is. Now, your parents were no different than myself, or any other parent. You fight to do whatever you can to get out of that situation, so to make a better place for your children. And then even after you've done all you can, sometimes it's just not enough.
Yes.
But I commend, go ahead and finish the story. I mean, I commend your parents in that I understand where they were coming from.
Yeah. And they made the difficult decision to allow me to move. And it was a sad, time for me. Even now, as I think about it, it brings back some of the emotions of leaving my 3 younger siblings, feeling like I almost, ran out on them to a degree. And then obviously my parents as well. And so I made this shift and I moved with my aunt. And so part of my story is I was living with my mom and my stepdad. So I moved with my biological dad's sister, and which had its tension in itself, because there was always, uh, uh, I would say, even far as a hatred towards my dad as a youth for not being there for me. And so now I find myself living with
Resentment, maybe.
resentment. Yeah,
Yeah.
resentment, maybe even better. Yeah,
Mm.
that there was that somebody had left me, abandoned me. And so now I'm living with his sister, and I have this hard heart towards her brother, but she's allowed me to come into her space, and I thank her for that. But sometimes it used to get a little tense in the house when his name would come up, and they would talk about how good of a guy he was, and I would disagree with that. But nonetheless, so here she is. She was a single mom. She was had 4 kids of her own, and she allowed me to come into her space. And I appreciate the opportunity to get away from where I was from. But she didn't tell me on a call that she lived in Gary, Indiana, which was just as bad, if not worse, than the place that I was leaving. And so here I find myself in a new scenery, new state, but the same situation arises. I'm still a dropout. There's still crime. There's still gangs, and I'm in survival mode. And one day, my cousin gets pistol whipped by another gentleman for being at his girlfriend's house and things of that nature. And my aunt makes a drastic decision to save her kids and reaches out to a friend in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and asks her, can we come live with her? And so here's my aunt, who's been in Gary for 10 or 15 years, and she packs us all up, and we drive this minivan all the way down 94 to Minneapolis. And so it's 6 of us. The lady who lives in Minneapolis is living in a 1-bedroom house with her own 2 kids, and we're just spread out all over the floor here in Minneapolis like refugees.
But what big hearts.
Yeah.
Ooh, Lord,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
big hearts those women have. They were so brave.
Yeah.
The woman that allowed for her to come down and bring her 6 people, and look, that's some love there, huh? That's
Yes.
some love, and it says something. You're talking about some drastic decisions.
Yes.
Come on now. You're
Yeah.
talking about some drastic decisions. That said love. That sounds pretty, that's some drastic love here.
Yeah.
That woman loved her enough to say, come on, sis, I got a 1-bedroom, but y'all come on and share. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Was she a Christian?
You know what? I don't know about Miss Renee. I never heard her talking about her Christian beliefs. I know my
Well,
aunt
she
Eve,
sure
but
exhibited it.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so Miss Renee let us stay with her, and I began to see that there was something different about this place than Gary and then Harvey in Minneapolis. The grass was a little bit greener, the water was a little bit cleaner, the air was smelled a little bit better and everything. And so I was hopeful that this can be my launching pad, that something different can happen here. But habits, the one person or one thing I carry with me when I did all this moving was myself. I couldn't shake me.
Okay, now, Brother Wayne, I have to kind of jump in a little bit, and I'm wondering, okay, were there any other male role models that were helping these women raise you? See?
Not closely, not
all right,
regularly.
Okay. All right, so give yourself some slack now.
Yeah, no, I do now, but the reality is that sometimes we need a changed heart. Just sometimes the scenery is not enough.
I see.
And so even though we can move out of the hood, we can move out of the ghetto, if there's not, and sometimes, right, that hardness of heart is fostered because of the environment that we was originally developed in.
Yeah, you had to be hard to survive. That's
correct.
What you were sharing.
Yeah, and so, but there has to be a willingness to allow the sun and the rain to hit that hard heart, to allow it to be able to accept new growth. And so there was a work that needed to be done in my heart because I became so hard-hearted. And so all that being said, I noticed it, but I couldn't do nothing about it. I didn't know what was happening here. So because I found myself start hanging out with the same type of people in gangs and things of that nature, smoking weed, drinking, and all those different things. And so eventually my aunt was able to get her own place, and we lived next door to this gentleman named Jack. And Jack invited me to come work for him. He was the manager of this thrift store. And so he saw me out there and up to no good. And he took a chance on me and said, why don't you come down here and help me move some of this furniture? And then 25 years later, I'm still here.
Praise God. Well,
Praise God.
there's
Yeah.
the man
Yeah,
that we
that's
were
the man.
talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
God sent him in a little different way, huh?
Yes.
But sent him where you needed him.
Yeah.
You needed him. Because you didn't need to grow up. You were already grown and mature in that way. So you weren't a little boy, but you were big enough to move some furniture and hang out and be responsible. And 25 years later, I tell you, and what a blessing. All right. Brother Kareem Jackson says, "Evening, fam. Good to see you. Wow. What a story."
It kind of reminds me of like when I lived in Minneapolis, I was a juvenile correction officer, and down there on Park Avenue. And a lot of the juveniles that were in there, I would listen to their conversations, and yeah, my dad's across the street, so they thought that they had to have the same life because their dad was across the street in the adult detention center, and I was like, you don't have to do that just because your father is there. And I would ask some of the ones that were in there for murder, why are you just, they called it back then spraying bullets. I don't know what they call it now. I was like, some people can't even let their children go outside. And one was like, lady, you just keep your kids in the house. I said, but don't you know that bullets don't have any name on it? I said, you could just be spraying and that bullet could hit your mom, your auntie, your grandma, or anybody that you love. And he was like, I never thought of it that way. And a lot of the young people, they just want someone to listen to them. If you listen to them, because at the end of the day, they'd be like, lady, can I go with you? No, you can't go with me. Stay here. And, get your help. But and then a lot of the other children were there because the foster care homes were full. St. Joseph for Children were full. So then you had children that didn't have anywhere to go. So they were just there. And that was disheartening too. But I would find the most helpful staff would be like ones like me that would listen, because I'm a mother too, and just listen to them and not want to abuse them when they're being irate or, trying to fight you or whatever. I didn't have any trying to fight me. And I all left out. You see this evil eye here? But they have the utmost respect when they know that you genuinely care about them. So I'm glad that man seen something in you to let you work and, just do some impartation in you to let you know that you are worth something and you are somebody to help you to where you are now. Because when my mother comes in the store, all she talks about is you.
That's awesome. It's
great testimony.
Yeah, it is. And it's a testament, to those people. I think sometimes as I have the opportunity to tell my story or testimony, that I forget all of these pertinent, important people that God had dropped in my life. And, and as I'm thinking about this, one of the people that I pay homage to is my stepdad, who stepped into my life when my father had left. And so even though my stepdad was imperfect and he had his issues, he showed me this unconditional love. It was tough love, but he was trying to prepare me for a world that's tough. And so even the idea to work. So when Jack asked me about working, some of my friends turned him down. But my example of a man was my stepdad, who went out and he worked every day as a carpenter. And so to me, work was not foreign. He would take us to work with him. He wouldn't pay us all that much, but nonetheless, he would prepare me for this season that I would launch into. And from there, the Lord surrounded me by other people that will help foster and nurture something in me that would do a work in my heart that would allow change to happen. And so I found myself at this thrift store, and there was people volunteering there, which to me was kind of crazy coming from poverty. I'm like, who works for free? Like that's, I think, is a gimmick. Some see I love to something, but it was a Christian organization, and these people had decided to open a thrift store in the middle of the hood, to demonstrate their love for God and their love for people. And so as I maneuvered in this place, people began to have conversations with me. And particularly, there was a volunteer president, Daryl Bach, and he came up to me one day, white man, and said that you're wasting your time. You need to go back to school. And I was like, who is this white man talking to? You know, I said, don't he know what I do? You know, but he would kept bringing it up, and he was kept saying that you need to go back to school. Like he's like there was these keys to success in life, and education was one of them. And so eventually I gave in, and I went back and I began to take GED classes. I worked during the day and got went to school and got classes at night.
I have a GED. I sure do. Well, see, I mean, look, I'm a GED girl because look, see, I was a teenager. I was a homeless teenager. So I had to go try to find a job, and by the time I worked, I took a second shift because I was trying to go to school in the daytime and then work in the evening so that I could put a roof over my head. Now, we're talking about someone that knows about it, but this is not an unusual thing because we're talking about the foster care system that fails. Okay. And I was part of that. I was part of that too. We're talking about the communities that don't support their hostile communities because of the examples of life, people thinking that, hey, they have to be the same as what their dad is doing or do the same as what their mom is doing or whatever. So I get it. But I am a GED person. But here, I didn't stop there. I didn't stop there. So you go ahead and you tell the rest of your story.
Yeah, and there's definitely a system, right? I mean, so and that's why this story is now unique to communities of color, right?
Yes, come on.
And it's sad that that is a story that you hear, because I have peers that can't relate to my story and how you were able to just jump in there, where these other individuals didn't have those type of pressures upon them, right? Because one of the reasons why I was working, I was probably about 17. I'm helping to support my aunt who has a house that she's renting to take care of us, and so I'm trying to do my part to contribute to her. So I can't go full time to school, and so here I find myself working during the day and taking these GD classes at night. And so and then going into systems, maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I just remember like stuff with my aunt where if our household made over a certain income, then they would take away her food stamps.
Oh yeah.
And then they would take away the medical, the dental. And so it was penalizing people from trying to come up out of poverty. And so it was a mess.
That's a foul system right there.
Yeah.
It's foul.
But it's the same. It hasn't changed. It's the same. When we're talking about people, doing the best that they can, taking advantage of these resources so that they can do better. Well, you eventually do, but there is a struggle. You do have to persevere to do that. And like you had mentioned, the more you try to do better when it comes to the income on one end, then they take away the other assistance on the other end, and you're not balanced. You're still trying
that's where democracy needs to come in, because families are not being represented if you're trying to take away from a family that is trying to thrive instead of just survive.
And then a young person too, at 17, there's communities that are not of color, but 17, you're really still you're in high school somewhere. You're preparing to go to college somewhere, right? You don't have that type of lifestyle to where you're, actually contributing to a household at 17. So, my brother,
Yeah, which can
So,
be a trap, right?
mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
because
it
you
can be.
you are 17 and you're working a job at a thrift store or
Mhm,
McDonald's, whatever. You're
mhm.
trying to do your part to support your family.
I got something to say about that. Go
Yeah,
ahead, though.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
I
something to
got
say
something to
about
say
that.
yeah,
too.
right. And so you can end up there.
You
That can be
could.
your
You
career,
could.
right? And unless
Mhm,
there's some intervention on
mhm,
behalf, and thank God for this young man
mhm,
or older man
mhm,
who intervened on my behalf and says this is not enough.
mhm.
That
For
this,
you,
for
for
you,
you. He
yes,
saw that
he
you
saw that.
had.
Yeah, if I had the capabilities, and
Mhm,
I'm not saying colleges for everybody.
mhm,
There's other jobs working for the state, or my son works for a recycling company,
mhm,
and so instead of going to college, and so there's different opportunities, but knowing that there's some jobs that especially with minimum wage, depending on where you are at, that they're lower than others. Anyway, the young man told me that I need to be doing something more.
mhm.
And so I began to take these classes, and then eventually I got the GED, and I came back to show Daryl, and he was so proud of me. But what he said to me was kind of like what you said: "It's not enough."
Mhm.
And I was shocked, like for me, this was like winning the lottery. Like people I grew up with didn't have a high school diploma, and so
Mhm.
here it is. I have this piece of paper, and you telling me that it's not enough. And so
Step one, step
step one, I'm
one.
like, what?
Mhm.
I want to retire education wise. This is the pinnacle right here. I'm done deal. But he encouraged me to go to college,
Mhm.
and so I found myself at the community college signing up and taking classes there as I continued to further my education. And eventually came back. It was a 2-year degree. It took me 4 years to get it. Uh,
That's okay. That's
Uh,
but
okay.
I
You
but I but
finished.
I but I showed up with this piece of paper,
Mhm.
and at this time we had a new executive director who I came in, Ed Kerner, and he began to work with me. And he said, "If you go for your bachelor, we'll help you with your tuition." And so I went on that journey for my bachelor's degree at the
Mhm.
university, and so it just kept going. And so, but at the same time, while all these things are happening, education wise, work wise, I'm doing okay. But there's still something missing in my life. There's still a brokenness. There's still areas in my life that are incomplete. At this time, I've had a son out of wedlock.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then his mom is not getting along. I'm paying child support. I'm doing supervised visitation. Um, and there's a need inside of me to achieve a higher level spiritually or mature wise. I didn't know it was spiritually, but mature, like I need to grow up somehow. And I couldn't put my
Mhm.
finger on it.
Mhm. So no one witnessed to you about.
Not Jesus.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as a shorty, what I'm saying, we grew up around in a church
Mhm.
atmosphere, but I
Mhm.
never was able to reconcile this Jesus that everybody talked about with the reality of my lifestyle.
Mhm.
Right. So I always believe that if you believe in Jesus and you die, you'll go to heaven. But how is he going to help me not get shot or not get beat up or help my mom pay her rent? And so I could never marry those things. And so here as an adult, I wasn't able to reconcile them either. And
Mhm.
so sadly, my cousin who I came here with was killed in a robbery, and it
Mhm.
put me on a soul searching journey
Mhm.
because I was with him 30 minutes before it happened, and I began to question God. Why not me? Why
Mhm.
am I still living? What is your purpose? And so I began to go to this church that was nearby. And so there was a couple guys, customers that was witnessing to me. So as I'm here at the store, they kept coming in, telling me about their church, and I kept putting them off. But in this season in my life, I remember them saying this church was down the street, and I began to visit the church. I would go late and sit in the back, and I would leave before church was over with, so nobody could talk to me. And I would just try to be in this atmosphere where I could try to hear from God. And uh, and then I began to read the Bible, and I began like it was almost kind of crazy. Like it was, I could hear from God, like God was speaking to me through this book.
That's what he does.
Yeah, and then it was like the words was jumping off the page. Like I tried to read this stuff before, and it made no sense, but now
Mhm.
it's making sense, and
Mhm.
it began to give me a blueprint on life. And so I had learned on how to live in the streets, surviving. There was a whole book for that. And now I had to scrap that book and
Mm-hmm.
pick up this new book and try to live according to it in order to have the best life that God intended for me. And so it was a big change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that, remarkably speaking, uh, people, they don't know that the Lord actually follows them. Now I know that we're dealing with the political end of it, because this is Dr. Gena Ross, and she's running for U.S. Senate. But see, here's the thing:
Good.
everybody knows that she is a believer.
That's
Okay,
right. I am.
so we're not hiding anything, and I think that part of the answer to a lot, the answer, not
Mm-hmm.
part of, but the answer to what we deal with in our communities, not just ours exclusively, because there's some poor rural communities that are just as unbelievable as what we
Mm-hmm.
go through too. And I think that what we don't hear enough about those communities, and but there are communities all over the rural community and the poor white community, European American community, that deals with what we've just talked about. But people don't realize that really the answer is, let's get in that word.
Mm-hmm.
And what they like to do, and what I find what the world does, is that they'll get in the word to see what it means to make money,
Mm-hmm.
to how to trip people up, how to con people or whatever. But to
Mhm.
to actually have the free will and the life, the fulfilled life that you were seeking, it really takes God tugging on those heartstrings to say, "Hey, I'm here. Get to know me." So, the journey God was taking you through, I thank Him, because that's not an unusual thing. That's how He works. He'll take you through the journey. All
Yeah.
right, all
Yeah.
right.
I know out here, where I live in Platt, it's rural. It's city rural, but like a few of my students, three of them. Well, there's actually more than three that I had when I worked at the high school. They recently passed from opioids
Mm-hmm.
and heroin overdoses,
Mhm,
and it's like, what's going on with these young children just to go out like that?
mhm,
We need a lot of programs and just a lot of help. And I know before opioids, there was crack, and they didn't make that a mental health issue, or
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't an issue at all. It was just poor black people on crack, black people on crack. But when it comes to opioids, it's like, oh, we have to have all these programs, but we need something that will help everybody.
Yes.
mhm, mhm.
Everybody. There's so many people that need help. Families need help, and like moving here to Missouri and starting life all over again with two boys and a girl,
Mm-hmm.
that was rough with my sons, because as soon as they got taller than me, and then the peer pressure of being called church boys, then
Mm-hmm.
it was on. I mean, it was on. I was like, oh, Lord, help me. The red bandanas, I
Mm-hmm.
kept throwing it away, and it just kept appearing. And I used to make them do push ups and everything else. And at first they would cry. And I'm like, I just kept adding on because you kept running your mouth and you just going to keep on. Then it got to the point when the oldest was 14, he started getting them little muscles and cuts. Get me to do some now, mom.
No.
It was too easy then.
Mhm,
But yeah, I just did the best I could. When you
mhm.
turned 14 here, you were getting a job, and it wasn't to help me pay bills. It was to teach you how to be responsible and
My
multitask.
house too. My
You had
house
to go to
too.
work, you were going to school, you could still
Mhm,
play your sports. Other people might, have been talking, oh, she shouldn't do that. You mind your business because you're not in here helping me.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
When I'm
mhm.
struggling and having to quit my jobs to take my kids to different appointments and go back to
Wow.
Minnesota to go to court for 15 minutes for my ex-husband just dragging me to court just to be dragging me to court,
Mhm,
because he already said I wasn't going to have nothing. He was trying to make sure I didn't have nothing, have my car taken from me and everything. And that was in my divorce decree. So it's like I had to work extra hard. And then, you know, working as a juvenile correction officer and raising these boys, you would think they would know, don't try mom, but they're still going to try you just for that little rebellious sake to try to steal my peace. And I would look for support. There really wasn't none. So I
No.
would do the best that I could. And sometimes I just lift them up and hold them up against the wall. Because, yeah, I'm strong. I really am.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trained to knock you down. And it's not abuse. Ain't no marks on you. It's not abuse.
But these are real,
a child.
real life issues.
Yes.
Real life issues.
But they're
You
fine now. They're grown and they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they just need that push. And like how Mr. Wayne had that encouragement. My son, the oldest one now, he's in Memphis, and he finds the older men talking to him at his job, and they tell him how mature he is for his age. And he gives mama credit. He didn't like me when he was younger because I'm the mean mom. But he can hold his own to this day because of how I raised him. And we didn't look for no handouts or nothing. I didn't have no one coming in and out of my house raising my kids. I raised them myself.
So we're talking about making drastic decisions to
save our
to
youth.
save our youth, our children's lives.
And it really takes everybody, because sometimes your kids don't want to hear you. So it takes an outsider or someone else, and we just need to share the wealth, share the knowledge, and just encourage one another. Stop hating and making children feel like they're not enough. Or, we just need to be there for one another. It takes a village. And I wish I would have had a village to help me. But God was my help and he was my strength.
Yes.
They threw that around. They threw that slogan around. It takes a village. And then while they were saying that it takes a village on the front end, on the back end, they were incarcerating our children. I remember those campaigns in how the Clintons had 3 strikes you're out laws.
Well, I used to work for the Missouri Department of Corrections. So a lot of men in prison was because of child support or tickets or something like that. Well, you give them longer sentences than someone else that murdered somebody.
Yes.
Give them their driver's license back. Give them what they need so they can be self-sustainable to end recidivism. They have these programs called restorative justice, but I think they have the wrong people working with them, because if you're not really helping them, and when they leave, you just give them a bus ticket and tell them to go on, they're going to come back. You're not helping them. They're not giving them the tools that they need to be successful.
Which once you get become incarcerated, you come out and then you have that on your record as a felony.
And it makes it hard to get a job. So we need more programs that can help even the teenagers get a job, even once you're considered what they call an offender or whatever. It's like, some of this stuff is just a mess.
It is a mess, and I think it's a mess by design too. One of the things that you have on your platform, Dr. Gena, is that, and I'm going to go ahead and share
mass
this.
Incarceration. I mean, just some of this stuff doesn't make any sense. And then other people can get a slap on the wrist and don't do no time at all.
The sustainable economic development is something that's on your platform. And you were talking about the hardworking Missourians that have been impacted and with the COVID and everything, and then to ensure that all are represented. Well, this is economic development, I think, doesn't come from maybe the low income inner city, but to kind of think about, like I had mentioned, to the rural areas, and then as well to bring in and get those that are incarcerated, to deal with the people that have been incarcerated once they come out, helping with those people to get jobs. Education is something that's on your platform as well, that you support education in public schools.
And everybody deserves a second chance. People need chances.
The second chance of when you come out, it's on your record, but I don't know of any place. You can, and I work with nonprofits. You can contact me, and usually, we'll get calls from time to time from couple of the businesses that I work with, but they'll ask, do you have any work for community service work that we could do? That's something else. Do you know of anyone that's hiring, even though I'm a felon? I get that question all the time. So there's got to be more economic development that will help Americans and Missourians as a whole too.
And stop being scared of someone because they went to prison and came out. Everybody's not going to harm you. You know, that's why you need the community service. Give them a chance. Give
For
people
sure.
a chance.
The I'm going to go ahead too and share your. We're going to share
Look at
this
his
here.
beautiful family.
Look at that.
Look at them twins. Look at the wifey.
Yeah. So that's my son Bishop right there. That's his high school graduation, and my daughter on the right there's Devon. My wife next to Bishop on the left, daughter Whitney, and then the twins Justine on the left and Jasmine on the right. And so that picture right there is a testimony to how good God is, because I would have never saw this as a kid being possible for my life. And then as I became somewhat steady as an adult and had these kids, particularly my son, it was a difficult patch in my life, as Miss Dr. Ross was talking about, raising African-American men in this climate in this country. And so to try to steer him away from all the things that I had dealt with or was involved with was a challenge. And so to see him at the finish line of having his high school diploma was such a big deal. And so all glory to God.
For sure. Now, how if you don't mind me asking, how long have you and your wife been together?
We've been married 16 years before I get in trouble. So,
all right.
16 years.
16 years.
All right. Yeah. You know, this is what this is a testimony of what God can do, but also when you encourage young people and get them in an environment that can be a blessing to them. I mean, because I'm thinking everything that you just shared, it wasn't one thing that helped you get to this point. It was everything.
Correct.
It was the package that helped you get to this point and to be that dad. I think that our girls need male role models as much.
Girls need their daddies.
As the guys do, most definitely. You know, I commend you on that. Now, here too, we do. You have a YouTube channel, that is pretty. Let's see. I can probably go ahead and share that. Now, what do you talk about?
Putting the Bible into action. As I said earlier, as a kid, I grew up in church and I didn't know how that stuff applied to me as a kid, how it was going to help me deal with my day-to-day life. And so as I was at home with, as most people was due to the pandemic dealing with COVID, I began to make a couple of videos, and a coworker of mine suggested that I keep making them. And so I think it's probably about 20 videos on here now. And most of these things are just talking about how to live a life that glorifies God and causes you to have a sense of purpose and success. And it's a way for me to share all my teachable moments. My kids always saying that, Dad, you're always talking about teachable moments, where I'm sitting them down and giving them lectures. And so this is an opportunity to share that with the world. And so as a one, I think here, finding my way back, and I'm sure that there's some scripture that's attached to it, and showing people how once you stumble in this life, right, that don't have to be your curtain call. There's opportunities with God giving you a second chance, but people will too. Not all people, but there will be that person, there will be that Jack, there will be that Renee, there will be that Auntie Eve that will help you through that season in life. And so yeah, that's my channel, particularly Words with Wayne. Hopefully they're encouraging words to help you in whatever season of life you in.
So if you were in a group full of, like, let's say a gymnasium full of 300 boys, let's say from middle school to high school, what would you tell them today to help them walk in a better light or see things better than a better perspective from what they see right now. Because maybe you might be the only hope that they have. You might be the only male
Mm-hmm.
figure that is in their face that even looks like them to say something
Mm-hmm.
to spark their interest that maybe if he did a turnaround, maybe I could have a better life too. What would you say?
That they're special, that God has a purpose and plan for their life, and they're not a mistake. I think that was some of the things that I probably struggled with internally, not having my dad around. And praise God for my mom. She was tough like you, Miss Ross, where she would hold me up against the wall too and do all
Yeah,
those different tactics and uh, put everything that she could into me to make me a better person, a better man. And so I praise God for her. But even especially as a teenager, and you have these questions about who you are, and the reality is we have media, so I'm listening to rap music and it's talking about thug life, and I'm watching movies about the king of Harlem and all of those different things that I began to take on a persona. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh, so I would try to also talk to the kids and not falling into peer pressure.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's okay to not be normal. It's okay to not be that person who the world is trying to tell you who you are. So you're watching the news and they're saying in Chicago 50 people were shot this weekend,
Mm.
and so you're trying to kind of what they call subliminal message
Yeah.
that shooter or you're a victim. So you're trying to find out which one of these persons that you're going to be, and then the music that you're listening to is fostering that mindset as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to give up um, the rap music and the movies, particularly for a season. I may watch something here or there, but for sure it was something that I could not have a steady diet of in order
Mm-hmm.
for me to have a changed mindset or who of God says that I am. And so challenging them to give up that diet of that type of music if they're listening to it.
That's something right there that is super profound in what you just shared, in that people don't think that the culture of this hip hop, the rap that is being uh, commercialized and put in our faces as normal. It's not normal.
I used
It's
to ban it. It wasn't allowed in my
yeah.
house, but
It
they
wasn't.
would sneak it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't allowed.
Yeah, it's not normal. One thing, we're talking about young people in school and violence. We do have a situation here in the one of the schools here in the Kansas City, Missouri School District that had a situation where the junior high school student stabbed and killed another junior high school
Mm,
student. So a 14-year-old uh, is dead because of this school violence. And what's going on. I think that people, and these are, they do have Hispanic names. Okay, in this community, I know I kind of did some work in the community. It's a Hispanic community now, predominantly. So it's not just African Americans. This is we're dealing with Hispanic. We're dealing with the European American rule. We're dealing with African Americans. We're dealing with the culture of America when it
yeah.
comes to this violence and negativity that our young people are exposed to, and what they're going to be having. I do want to give a quick plug. They're going to be having a kind of a memorial at one of the skating rinks here on Thursday. So this is at the Wynwood Skate. If you guys want to, and I think it's from 6 to 8 that they're going to have a memorial for this young person who was a skater.
Mm,
That kind of thing. And I commend the community, the skating, the business community for saying, look, we're going to embrace these young people.
mm,
We're going to have something here that's going to help them along in trying to deal with this unfortunate situation that happened. We're not going to push them away, put them in a box.
mm,
They're violent. They're this. No, this is because this young person loved to skate.
mm,
And I think that's something that we do with some of the other nonprofit. This is an organization that I work with. We try to introduce young people to a better the culture and a better way to enjoy life, and not and just get them out of the get them in front of the TV, you know,
Right.
Come
Well,
on.
the
just like
video games
I
and
went skating a couple weeks ago, and I told you this when I was waiting in line.
mhm,
Um, there were some young people, and I mean, they straight were cussing like sailors. And there was a
mhm,
father with his young daughter, and I could see
mm.
them just cringing,
Yeah.
cringing. So I said
Yeah.
to the young man, he was a Caucasian guy, and I said, "Hey, I said, you need to watch your mouth." I
Mhm.
said, "Can you stop cussing?" I said, "Because there are parents here with their young children, and every other word that comes out of your mouth is a cuss word, you know." And I
Mhm.
said it just
Mhm.
like that. And he knew I wasn't playing. So he was like, "Okay." And then
Mhm.
one of the other ones cussed. He said, "You can't say that because praise the Lord is standing here. I don't care what you call me."
Hey,
Praise
yes,
the
yes,
Lord
yes, yeah,
is
yeah.
But
standing
sometimes you just
here.
gotta say something,
You
and it's not what
do.
you say, it's how you
Mhm.
say it. But
Mm.
I
Mhm.
got tired of listening to it because
Mhm.
you keep cussing
Mhm.
around me. It sounds like a second language because it's just piercing and it didn't
Mhm.
need to be said. And let's
Most
all go in here, go
definitely.
skating and have fun. And
Mhm.
what?
Mhm.
Some people's mouths need to be washed out with soap. I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm old school. I don't care.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
with that being said, before we run out of time, talking about drastic decision to save our children's life, everybody will not be able to send their kids to move with an aunt or move to another state. But
Mhm.
I would challenge the parents that listen to this to be courageous in raising your kids. Do
Mhm.
not give them over to the culture.
Mhm.
So if that's having these tough conversations about profanity, you don't let profanity in your house. Watch
Exactly.
what you have the password to Netflix.
Mhm.
I had my children when they did their homework and when computers just came, something that they needed every day, that it was on the kitchen table. So anytime that thing is open, I can walk by at any moment and see it. Not saying that they ain't sneak and get tablets and all those things, but it wasn't going to be permissible that this type of music, these type of movies and things of that nature was displayed in our house. And so I just encourage and challenge parents on that today, not to just give in to that which the kids want, that they need to place boundaries in these
Mhm.
kids'
Exactly.
lives
Exactly.
to keep them safe. That's
Mhm.
one of the biggest job as a parent. My job is to protect you, and sometimes that means protecting you from yourself.
Mhm.
Exactly. And stop trying to be their friends. Be the
Mhm,
parent. Don't let your kid tell you. Don't be scared of them and let them tell you
mhm,
Mhm.
what they're going to do. Like they're the parent. You're not paying no
Mhm.
bills up in this
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
Like one thing that would irritate me is sometimes when my children would go to school and the teachers let them do whatever they want. And then when they come back home, they think that their opinion matters. It matters a little bit, but not as far as what you're going to tell me what I'm going to do or what you're not or what you're going to do in my house. So,
Mhm.
like you said, boundaries and look, when you're in my house, you're going to follow my rules. And if you
Mhm.
can't follow them, then I can help you.
Mhm.
uh,
Raise your children. That's what I'm hearing.
yeah,
Raise
Raise
them.
them.
You
yeah,
don't try
yeah,
to be their friend.
Mhm. Pay
yeah,
attention to them,
yes,
protect
Talk to them.
them, talk to them. I know you're tired, sis. I know you're frustrated, bruh, when it comes to resources, finances, whatever you're dealing with. But those are your children.
yeah,
Raise your children.
Yeah,
yeah,
take care
Raise
of
your
them the best you
children.
can. I helped raise my
Definitely.
nieces and nephews. So
Mm-hmm.
before I had mine, I raised because my sister,
Mm-hmm.
she was murdered. And
Mm-hmm.
that left my mom with kids. And then to help my mom, then I took some.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
just do the
Mm-hmm.
best we can.
And I would say, don't wait till you perfect before you start implementing these things, right?
Oh,
So
Exactly.
you a hypocrite. Yeah, I drink, but you're not drinking, right?
yeah,
You're not. No,
yeah.
you're not gonna pull
Okay.
up to this table with me. No, you're not gonna smoke with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I smoke.
Exactly.
Yep, I cuss. Yeah, but you're not cussing.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
don't wait for those things. Eventually, I would love for everybody to get to the place where they model the behavior that they want seen. But until then, be courageous.
Good
Stand up
point,
to
Brother
your kids.
Wayne.
So
Be
Good
the parent
point.
and
be
help
the parent.
somebody else's child along the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Good point. Good point. The let me take a look here. I want to get this going again. This now Dr. Ross is running for the US Senate here in the state of Missouri to
They ain't
represent the
ready for
state of
this.
Missouri.
I just gotta say.
Uh yeah. Then and she's running for this position, this seat, so that she can be a voice for Missouri. And I'm not talking about a sold out voice, a voice that can be bought. She says she's
Mm,
Yeah,
unbought, she's
no one's gonna buy me.
unbiased, you
yes.
Unbiased.
know.
I'm
We're
just me,
yeah.
and I'm real.
Mhm. So her campaign is out there, and you can go out to rossforussenate.com. There's a big blue donate button in the upper right corner of that screen. Now, when she gets the donations, this goes towards opportunities to get her voice and get her in front of the public so that they know what she stands for. Okay, this events, signs. We haven't even gotten to the signs yet. Okay. We're talking about things that when we come up to the primary, they will know that Dr. Ross is on the ticket. She's number 2 on the ballot coming up in the primary
Mm.
August 2nd. And, what I'm hearing is that we get a chance to hear about the money, the beer lady who's running. Okay. I call her the beer lady. I don't, we get a
Her
chance
name is
to.
Trudy.
Oh, Trudy. Okay. And we get a chance to hear about the other preferred candidate, okay, the
Mm.
male or whatever. But, I'm not sure whether or not these people understand what we as the Missouri communities, what we're really dealing with here, and whether or not they would go up there to represent Missouri in a way to where we can be successful and grow. So she's also on Facebook. If you want to follow Dr. Ross and what's going on, this is actually going to be on Facebook. You can go back and take a look at the different broadcasts. We do live streams, Facebook. She's also there, Ross for U.S. Senate. Uh, Facebook at Facebook. Now we have a team. We have
Mm.
volunteers too, and this is some of the volunteers that work with us. If you want to volunteer, contact us. Contact us. And it's volunteer. It's an unpaid volunteer. Now, Brother Wayne, was sharing it. Do people volunteer for real work for free?
It works for free. I have a new marketer, and she's slamming. She made my flyer for Missouri's Got Talent on May 21st at English Landing Park. If you have a talent that you'd like to share, to get up on the stage or just have some fun, come out from 12 to 3 on that day, and the flyers are posted. It's just to bring everyone together.
Yes, we need more of that.
That's what I'm all about, unity. Yeah, I know how to take care of business. People probably like, why don't you talk more about politics and business? Life is first.
Yeah.
Life, family life, living. And then we can talk about the business stuff. I could take care of that, but I'm not going to bicker back and forth with all the garbage that people be talking about in their nonsense. Yes, I said it because I'm tired of it. They bicker and they fight against one another for stuff that doesn't even make sense to the rest of us. They have their own personal agendas, and it doesn't represent us. And then that's what people want to vote for. Then okay, you're going to get the same result. So, like
definite. They're considered distractions, not really what's worth talking about. Now, Jackson County, we're talking about those who are. You're looking at a population, Jackson County population 2020 census of 717,204 Jackson County and Missourians. Okay. So Jackson County, I'm sure you can do some big representation there. Cass County, we're calling out all Cass County, Greene County.
Just came back from there. Going to Sheridan County next week. If you want me to come to your county, send some money for gas and transportation. I'll be there. Because I work for my dollars. I have to go to work. So I'm working to pay my bills. If you want me to come, then you give me some money to come see you. I'm just raw tonight.
Okay,
I'm just
all right.
real with you. Yeah, for real.
Send the request. Send the request out. Atchison, Missouri. We have Mississippi, Missouri County. Oh my goodness. Mississippi County at St. Charles.
I represent every county. I won't leave nobody out. No part of the corners of the state.
Osage County. Big shout out to all. Ozark. We're here. She's going to the U.S. Senate, guys. She's gonna go, and we're just letting you know that this is your candidate. She is your candidate. Now there are 6,154,913 people here in the state of Missouri, and that grew. So Missouri is grew a little bit from the 2010 census to the 2020 census. So we've grown some, and there's the vote. The vote is out there. So when you step into that ballot box, just know that you're going to vote for Dr. Gena Ross. And yes, who can vote? Register to vote. Register to vote now.
Doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. I don't care. I will represent you because I'm all about the people.
We have an open primary, which means that even if you are a Republican, okay, well, Dr. Gena is running on the Democrat ticket. This is what she's running on. But here, if since you know she's the better candidate, that the Republicans don't have the candidate for Missouri. They don't have the one that has Missourian interest in the best interest that's going to take Missouri concerns to Washington. Okay, just know that Dr. Gena Ross is your candidate. We have an open primary. So when you walk up to that table, you can ask for the Democratic ballot. They're going to ask you, are you Democrat, Republican? Tell them you are a Democrat so that you can vote.
They're not going to say they're a Democrat. Just say you want the Democrat ballot.
The Democrat ballot.
Because if you tell them that, they're going to be like, no, because a lot of people are stuck on party.
Okay.
They're so stuck on party that they will miss out and vote against what they need.
Let me explain how important party is to the democratic system, the Democratic Republic system of the United States of America. It's so important that they're actually working to vote in the state of Missouri and other states to close the voting options. So in other words, when you go to register to vote, you have to declare whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And guess what? You'll have to go to and vote for the Democratic or the Republican ballot. You won't be able to, it's no open voting, it's closed. So they're trying to take away that freedom.
And they're going to lose voters too, because some people don't vote as is.
And trying to take away that freedom. We want to keep that freedom open. So when you see all these other distractions that are going on, we still need to run the United States of America, guys. I get there's a lot going on. Some research and presentation on that the past week or so. We've published some information about that, but we're still here. We have to live as Americans. And they're trying to take away that open voting option that we now have in the state of Missouri. They're working to have it closed. Okay. And that's not giving us the freedom. That's taking away a freedom that we have as U.S. citizens. All right. Wow, Wayne. What a testimony.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You don't look like what you've been through.
Oh, glory to God. I seen that video. I seen that video.
Most definitely. And we're just glad that thanks for sharing and thanks for encouraging young people, young parents. You know, you're a young person, and just keep up the good work and pray for us as we pray for you too. We're gonna keep you up in prayer as well.
And keep looking out for my mama in that store.
I got her. Yeah. Well, blessings on your work and serving the community. Volunteering to a degree. Now I know why people do it. Their heart is in the right place, and that's
the only reason why I'm running. You think I'd be running for nothing else? The way some of these people act. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just trying to pave the way for change.
Amen.
All right. Well, just hold on. We're going to run this last piece of information, and just hold on, Wayne, and hold on, Dr. Gena. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
I'm Dr. Gena Ross, and I'm running for U.S. Senate for the state of Missouri. I'm good trouble because people are my first priority. I will stay true to all people As I stay true to myself, I'm unbossed, unbought, and unbiased, paving the way for change. Please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or go to my website, rossforusenate.com. We're better together, building a better tomorrow beginning today. Business as usual is no longer acceptable, and feel free to make a contribution. No dollar amount is too small. Thank you very much.
Dare to be you, dare to be me, and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a liberty